Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Creative Festival and our fashion show, Corset's Fabulous Fashion Accessories. Today's show is very unique. It's as much a wearable art show as it is a fashion show. Our hope is that you will open your mind to what a corset can be rather than what a corset once was. You'll also see our models are all quite capable of breathing. All of the corsets you see today were handmade, many by the individual wearing them. Several of the corsets are first-time efforts, and each corset maker has applied his or her own set of skills to execute these works of art. As you watch this show, I hope you'll see that it's not just about the fashion, it's also about the people who have made these works of art, people just like some of you. Our first models are all teenagers and students of So Be It Studios. They each made their corset during a one-day corset making class that I taught in September from a Ryan Ginger corset kit. There were 7 girls, and each one chose their kit and created their own look by pairing it with garments they already owned. They started with either a black or white kit, and some of them have added embellishments. Today, just 2 of those girls were able to attend. Thank you, ladies. Michelle Ashburn is modeling a teal and black shot taffeta corset with dark feather trim and black lambskin binding. She's paired it with leggings and strappy heels. This look is designed for evening wear and could just as easily be worn with a long skirt for a more elegant look. Linda purchased the feathers first with no idea what she would do with them. It was while looking through her stash and finding the taffeta that she came up with this idea. It's amazing how little fabric it takes to make a corset. Corset by Linda Sparks, modeled by Michelle Ashburn. Melanie was inspired by her embroidery machine and some heat-set crystals. She embroidered mirror image motifs on the silk before it was cut into the front panels. She's created a playful look, but the corset could just as easily be worn with jeans or a bodice of a gown. The silk ruffled train and heat-set crystals were both added after the corset was completely sewn. Melanie is an experienced corset maker and has drafted her own corset pattern as well as making and modeling it. Her silk-peaked cap and leggings create a whimsical equestrian look. If only we could have found a hot pink crop. Corset by Melanie Farrar-Jackson, necklace by Tammy McDonald, hat by Helen Flower, modeled by Melanie Farrar-Jackson. Karen is wearing a corset made from men's ties. Many of us remember skirts from ties, so why not a corset? Ties are readily and affordably available from secondhand stores, and they can make for a truly one-of-a-kind piece. This corset was made by Norma Lachance of Winnipeg. I emailed her Karen's measurements. She mailed me a mock-up, I fit the mock-up to Karen and mailed it back to Norma, who then finished the corset and returned it to me by mail last week. Not only was that an exceptional process, but this was Norma's first attempt at making a corset. She drafted the pattern from scratch and built the corset herself, and while I can't prove it, it's as beautifully finished on the inside as it is on the outside. This is a great retro look. All Karen needs is a Volkswagen van and a peace sign. Corset by Norma Lachance, modeled by Karen Merriam. Kathy is modeling her own work, and like Norma Lachance, this has been Kathy's first venture into corset making. In fact, she's made 2 corsets for this show, working on both simultaneously. Both of Kathy's corsets are based on an 18th century inspired corset pattern. The pattern was drafted by Tammy MacDonald, and the jewelry Kathy is wearing was made by Tammy as well. Take special note of the front panel of Kathy's corset and the tabs. Kathy created her own fabric for these sections by sandwiching scraps of fabric between layers of net. The front panel is actually a scene depicting the ocean and a setting sun. Corset by Kathy Posliff with guidance from Christine Yunt. Jewelry by Tammy MacDonald and Norma Hislop. Headpiece by Kaz Maxine. Laurie Krempian-Hall is a passionate knitter, knitting all of her husband's socks as well as knitting for international theatre productions. So it's no wonder that she combined her corset making skills with her knitting skills to create this piece, which includes beading along the top edge. This corset is paired with a classic little black skirt that many of us already have in our wardrobes. If you've ever been by the Farthingales booth in the past, you may have met Laurie, as she's usually at the show with me. In fact, she's there today, and our booth is right at the end of the runway. If you knit, you want to see this corset up front. Corset by Laurie Krempian-Hall, modeled by Gina Schellenberg. Now we have something very special. Wendy, like Laurie, does have extensive corset making experience. But as many of us know, when you sew for others, you often don't have time to sew for yourself. Wendy was excited about this opportunity as it was motivation to make a corset not only for herself, but for her husband. Men have worn corsets at varied times during fashion history, and Stephen is wearing it well today. Wendy's corset may not be obvious because she's gone a step further and incorporated it into a 2-piece dress. Her corset is made from organza ribbons, which she wove and sewn to a flesh tone base. The inspiration for this corset was the shoes. So if you've got some great shoes, consider making a corset to go with them. Wendy's top hat was made by Kaz Maxine from the same ribbon used in the corset to create an airy yet elegant look. Stephen's corset was made from faux leather with an embroidered Celtic knot motif at the center front that Wendy designed and machined freehand. This fabric feels just like leather, but was easier to work with. Stephen's kilt was made by R Kilts of Stratford, who let Wendy assist. Stephen, you've pulled off the corset and kilt look perfectly. Thanks for being such a good sport and gracing our runway. Both corsets were by Wendy Bendel, top hat by Kaz Maxine, modeled by Wendy Bendel and Stephen Bendel. Joan. Joan and I took a corset class together just over 20 years ago. My passion for the art kept me exploring the possibilities, while Joan was not quite so inspired. She did go on to make several corsets, but it's now been a few years. Joan is wearing a classic Victorian corset made of coutil with lace trim. She's paired it with a classic Victorian petticoat that she made from silk. All materials were from her stash. It can be amazing how well bits and pieces of your stash can work together. Joan's ribbon ties match her fabric perfectly despite being bought years apart. I doubt Joan ever thought she'd be gracing the fashion runway in her underwear. At least not after she became a grandma. Joan's daughter just had a baby on Friday. Imagine this outfit in black and it makes a smooth transition to evening wear. Corset and petticoat by Joan Shearer, pearl necklace by Tammy MacDonald,